Fáilte, good evening. Welcome, everybody. Welcome along to Live Irish Myths. This is episode 53, Quega is a 3. I'm Anthony Murphy of Mythical Ireland. Welcome along this evening on Facebook and on YouTube for our regular daily evening broadcast about topics relating to Irish mythology and folklore. You're all very welcome along. Tonight we'll be talking about Oenach, the Teltown Games, or the Irish equivalent of the Olympic Games. In relation to tonight's episode, I have to say thanks to ATDS Photo on Pixabay for that beautiful picture of the horses, which forms the basis of the graphic for today's episode, and of course the horses relating to the racing of horses, which undoubtedly took place at Tailteann. Just to say thanks as always to Mythical Ireland patrons at patreon.com/Mythical Ireland for your ongoing support of everything that we do. It is very much appreciated at this time, and I am just going to paste a link to the Patreon page just to say that the latest no, that's the wrong link, Anthony. Anyway, not to worry. I'll get it right in a second. That's live TV for you. I pasted the wrong link. It's not the one that says notifications. It's the one that says /Mythical Ireland. Anyway, apologies about that. Boo-boo. That's silly of me. Anyway, I'll delete it there from Facebook. Anyway, hello this evening to Erica Bow was the first of the commenters on YouTube. Erica, a very good evening to you. Mandy McCurl says, hello everyone and greetings from a sunny Isle of Mull. It was sunny here until about an hour or so ago, and it has become overcast. We had a beautiful day, can't complain. And I should say, before we go too far into the episode, that today we are celebrating here in the Murphy household a very significant birthday. My sons, Luke and Josh, who are twins, were born this day 18 years ago, which means they are celebrating adulthood today. I will probably try to curtail the episode in terms of trying to cut off at an hour, because we have a party to have and a few drinkies and a bit of celebrating to have. So I hope you won't mind me nipping off early. Sarah Dennison says hello from Ontario, or Toronto, Ontario. Good evening to you. Trononawa, Sarah. Natty Lopez says hi everybody. Giaguch Natty. Mary Smith is in Switzerland. Fáilte, Mary. Murgirl, who's Elizabeth, says it's stormy, thundering and raining here in Bozeman in Montana. It's beautiful. Excited to be here. And we're excited to have you, Elizabeth. Fáilte. Erica Rivertree, Banachty o Louisville, Kentucky. And Banachty o Condaloo in Erin. Erica, you're very welcome along as always. Daisy Peters is saying, have a beautiful Sunday afternoon / evening. These Irish stories are truly magical. And of course, Daisy is in Brazil. Lovely to have you along. Hemp and Asphalt, a happy birthday to your sons. I will pass that along. And of course, that is Paula, who is in Southern California. And on Facebook, they're rolling up very fast. Donna Jean Porter, indeed, is the first of the commenters tonight. Fáilte, Donna. Pat Rowan is watching. Giaguch, Pat. Louise Sherrill says, good evening, Trononawa. Josephine Meehan, Trononawa, Anthony, and Tua. And the same back to you, Josephine. Margaret Ring is in the house. Good evening, everyone, with big smiley faces. Hi, Margaret. Rowan Grove says hello from Colorado. Bright and sunny here. Very well. That is good. Yvette Tillema says hi, Tua. Giaguch. Barbara Kling. Hello, everyone, from sunny and warm Vermont. Brilliant stuff. Barbara Barney says hi, Anthony. Giaguch. Fáilte. Judy McQueen says hello all, and hello back to you, Judy. Heather Garon Rice says hello from Lancaster. You're very welcome, Heather, as always. Pat Rowan is in Port Townsend in Washington State. Kathy May Deo says, good evening, Anthony, from Newcastle, Washington State, USA. There we go. The Washington Staters are all in already. Jack Durkin says, hi, everyone. Giaguch. Aaron Durrett is watching. Hi, Aaron. Mike and Jeanette Naylor are in Princeton in New Jersey, and they are watching and saying good afternoon. Trononawa, Mike and Jeanette. Kristen Gray Taggart says, hello, Anthony and Tua. It's a lovely late spring day in California. Fabulous stuff. Freya Shoholm says, good evening, Anthony, and all the lovely people here. Fáilte, Freya. Patricia McAteer is watching, one of the locals who's based in County Louth. Hi, Patricia. Morgan Daimler, shouldn't I say? I apologize, Morgan. Morgan Daimler is watching. Hi, Morgan. Lovely to see you. Stephanie Lockling says hello from Minnesota. Indeed. And Morgan, your live Facebook broadcast was very interesting. I have to agree that there seems to be a certain amount of bias out there, hopefully. Going to be a thing of the past soon. Theresa McGuinness says, sunny and hot in Callahan in Florida. Henry Paddy Shearman says, good evening, everyone. Hi, Henry. Gillian Gorgat is watching. Hello, Gillian. Doris O'Hara says, hello, Anthony and everyone. Fáilte Doris, Nick Eska Casterton. Good evening, Anthony. Hi, Tua. Fáilte, Nick. Josephine Meehan says, happy birthday, boys. Enjoy the celebrations. Jim Papayoanu says, hello from New Hampshire in the USA. Hello, Jim. Fáilte. Fáilte more. You're very welcome. Margaret Ring, happy birthday, Luke and Josh. Stephanie Loughlin says, happy 18th, dear boys. Yes, indeed. And we will be celebrating a little bit after this. Alex Casterton says, evening, Anthony. This should be good. As always, classed Lou as god of gaming and entertainment as well. Indeed. Okay. Happy birthday to the twins. Yay, says Aaron Durrett. Brilliant. Ralph Waldron is in that league. Hi, Ralph. Nora Gaffney O'Connor. Ken Clea Will Shiv Golair. Well, Tommy Gwa. Nora. Giariv to Banachthi O'Galliev says, Carol Barrett. Lovely to have you in the house, Carol. Kristen Gray Taggart is saying happy birthday to the twins. Josie Ann Hostner says, Switzerland here too. Fantastic stuff. And we have got people on 2 continents now. Let's see if we can get a few more in. Mariana Dunn says, greetings, Anthony, and from Artua from Virginia. Hi, Mariana. Dawn Hilton. Hi, Anthony. Happy birthday to Luke and Josh. I'm not ignoring you. I'm working on Loch Gerald. Found some interesting stone mounds. That's okay. And don't worry, I have to say that I'm not ignoring people who are reaching out. I've had an extraordinary amount of correspondence via Facebook message and email and all sorts of messaging services. And I'm finding it very difficult to keep up with it all because I'm also trying to write a book and do other things. So for those of you who have contacted me and maybe not had a proper reply, please forgive me. I will get round to it. Kimberly V. Halligan is in New York City, where it is sunny. Brilliant stuff. Happy birthday to your sons. Have a fun party. We will do our best. Tom King. Good evening, Anthony, and my fellow Tua. Yes, forge lit and blacksmithing away. There's a magic in the fire. The spirits are with us, enjoying every minute. Happy birthday to your boys. Hi, Tom. That sounds absolutely magical. And yeah, you'll have to show me that in action someday when it's safe to do so. Sharon Kelly Smith says, hello, Anthony. Sharon from Iowa. Fáilte, Sharon. Michelle Lake says, hello from Colorado. Giaguch Michelle Movanwe, whose name I'm just trying to remember the pronunciation of, and hopefully I'm getting it right, says, Tranonawa and happy birthday to the boys. A grey, quiet evening in Bristol. I've been enjoying chocolates dropped off by a friend who lives down the road, but haven't seen her for 6 weeks. We kept our distance. Well done for doing that, Movanwe, because I know it's not easy. Stephanie Loughlin says, happy birthday from Minnesota. Hello, Stephanie. Rowan Grove says, birthday blessings to the boys. Barbara Murphy, another Murchu in the house, says hello from Tucson in Arizona. Hello, Barbara. Kelly Sewell, good evening all. Enjoying some perfect, partly cloudy 70 plus 70 Fahrenheit. Perfect weather. Brilliant stuff. Catherine Griffin is grocery shopping in Alabama with a face mask on. Hello, Catherine. Enjoy your shopping. You're going to be somewhat distracted. Hopefully you have us in the headphones. Marlon O'Hirmach says hello from Sacramento in California. Giaguch Marlon. Molly Michelle Kopeski is in Minnesota. I get to sit out on my deck today, enjoying the warm weather while watching the episode. Fantastic. That's lovely. Josephine Meehan, sun is shining in Donegal, and I'm curled up with a large vino ready for my story. Thank you, Anthony. Well, thank you, Josephine. That sounds very nice. Jim says, perfect pronunciation, mate. Jim Papayoanu. Did I get it right the second time round? Charlene McLean Cosby says hi again from North Carolina. Hi, Charlene. Laura McCormick. Killinall, South Tip, checks in. Greetings, Tua and Anthony. Looking forward. Brilliant stuff, Laura. And you're welcome. Very special happy birthday to the boys. Helen Guinan is in the house. Could everybody please genuflect? Your Majesty. Margaret Ring, ready when you are. Happy birthday to the twins, says Helen. Martin Smith. Hello, Anthony. Could the curses like near Stonehenge be a prehistoric sports arena? Yes, I think the henges are more likely to be the sports arena. Now, Martin, we did cover that, or we did sort of discuss that in the episode about Drone Hinge. Now, all of the episodes can be viewed in one place at a link that I'm just about to copy into the comments, just in case you haven't seen it before, and also on YouTube. And episode number 26 was about Drone Hinge. So perhaps you might have a watch of that and then come back to me if you have more questions. Rosalinda Calkin says, hello from Los Angeles in California. And it's the first time Rosalinda tá fáilte roat. And the fellow MythFlix viewers will undoubtedly give you a very warm welcome as well. It's great to see you from Los Angeles in California. Pamela Walter says, gorgeous. Thank you, Pamela. Nathan Lashley, hope you're all doing well. Doing fine so far, Nathan. Alex says, finally learned how to spell Giariv. Getting there. That's brilliant stuff, Alex. And a few people saying happy birthday to the boys, and I'll pass on your kind messages. Pamela Walters is saying Giariv from the Netherlands. Lovely to have you along again, Pamela. Kelly Sewell, happy birthday for the Lucky Twins. Joy Jenkins, it's nice to be part of this. Brilliant stuff, Joy. And that's a lovely name. It's a great joy to have you here. James Sainsbury says, hello from myself, my wife, Anna. Her first time listening. Great episode yesterday. Hello, James. Fáilte to yourself and Anna. Anya. Aaron Eckert says, hi, everyone. Giaguch, Aaron. Joy Jenkins says, thank you from Arizona. You're very welcome. Veronica Casey says, hey, all. Giaguch, Veronica. Jim Conway, who's in the apple country of Armagh. Hello, Jim. Ardvacha. Oh, yeah, lots of welcomes for the newcomers, definitely. And on YouTube, Jackie Stevenson, did I say that? Hello, Anthony Knoll from sunny California. Hi, Jackie. Irish technical thinker who's Marcus and Rachel watching. Unfortunately, Rachel's father passed away yesterday. Oh, that's very sad. Thoughts and prayers from this community would be a great help. I'm staying strong. Thanks. Very sorry to hear that, Marcus. And please do pass on our condolences to Rachel, because I know you guys are regular watchers and listeners. We'll be thinking of you. Paul in the Hill of Tara says, yeah, Tailteann was often out there many times there, standing stone in St. Patrick's Church. Not sure what that refers to, Paul, but you can catch up with me later on private message if you want. Sarah Dennison, I started sun tanning in March in Toronto, but then it got rainy. I'm glad to be back to sun tanning while listening to our darling Anthony. Yeah, I have to be honest, I was catching a few beams of sun myself in the garden. Rosalie Reeves says, hi, all from the Wirral, UK. Got me a glass of red and I'm settled in. Well, you're very welcome along, Rosalie, and that sounds just nice. Saoirse Gilligan says, big hello again from mighty Mayo. Saoirse, you are very, very welcome along. Fáilte. And yes, a lot of people are passing on their condolences to Marcus and Rachel, both on YouTube and indeed on Facebook. Aaron says, I hope you keep doing this. Look, 53 days in, who'd have thought, let's keep it going. Lots of episode suggestions and lots of stories to be read. I mean, we could. I don't doubt that we could definitely go for another 53 if we needed to, but probably a lot more than that. Stretch Wilson says, hello again from Iowa, and a great and sunny day here. I'll be having to catch up later as I'm stretched out on the lovely green grass today. That's all right, Stretch. That sounds lovely. And come back to us and listen to us on the rewind. Shira Land says, hello from North Carolina. Fáilte, Shira. Barbara Murphy, yay, another Arizonian. Eva Anderson says, hello, everybody. Almost missed it. The weather is so lovely, but here I am with my tea and my sewing. Brilliant stuff, Eva. Fáilte. And a lot of people, as I say, passing on their condolences to Marcus and Rachel. So, what are we on? 14 minutes. Brilliant. Okay, tonight we are talking about on Oenach Tailteann and the Tailteann Games, which you might say would be the Irish equivalent of the Olympic Games. So let's get stuck right in, shall we? The earliest authentic records of these great national games contained in our ancient manuscripts are associated with the death and burial of the renowned Queen Taillte, Tailte, wife of King Yochi Mac Urk, the last Ferbulug monarch of Éireann. Michael Murphy's in the house, says, hi, MythFlix group. Hope you're well, Michael. I know you had a trip to the doctor yesterday and you couldn't watch us on your way home. Hope you're keeping well. All our best blessings to you and all yours. She was a learned daughter of Maimor, a distinguished king of Spain, who reigned in the 19th century before the Incarnation, and her husband, Jochi, was slain in the historic Battle of Moytura, fought between the Firbolgs and the invading colony of Tuatha Dé Danann on the plains of Cong in County Mayo in 1896 BC. There you go. Very precise date. I don't think we can date these things so well today. That's probably taken from the annals. Yvette is always asking what the book is, and I always forget before I start to say. I'm reading from the Oenach, Tailteann, and the Tailteann Games, subheading Their Origin, History, and Ancient Associations by T.H. Nally. Now, this is a modern reprint of a very old book, which was published in... probably won't be able to find out now. I can't actually remember. It's in the early part of the 20th century anyway. Perhaps there's a date at the end of the introduction. No, there isn't. I don't exactly know when it was published, but there's the original sort of inside title page. So this is a modern reprint by, it seems to be Franklin Classics Trade Press, an imprint of Creative Media Partners. I know I bought this on the web, and I'm not sure where it had to be delivered from. But you get a lot of these, books that are basically facsimile copies of the original. The original typography and everything. It's just literally a copy of the original. It's not even reset or retypeset or anything like that. This, it may be remarked, is one of the oldest, if not actually the very oldest, events of which authentic records exist in ancient Irish history. Serena Swift says, hold the door, I'm late. Come on in, Serena. Grab a pew, grab a brew, and sit down by the fire. Lucy Robinson says, Giagoich, two of the MythFlix. Devon here. Hi, Lucy. Falche. Mark Munoz says, hello all, a bit late. Yes, Mark, I now know what you were talking about yesterday. And it's a bank holiday here tomorrow. So I will get your books out to you on Tuesday in Tuesday's post. Okay, a few people wanted to know what we were reading from. As, however, the mere mention of such bald and otherwise uninteresting dates conveys no adequate idea of their antiquity to the mind of the ordinary reader, it may serve to awaken some additional interest in the subject if we associate them with some of the great outstanding events in the contemporary history of the world. It will no doubt surprise some of our readers to learn that the Tailteann Games were instituted and celebrated in ancient Ireland more than 1,000 years before the misty, if not mythical, Romulus is supposed to have yoked his oxen and ploughed his legendary furrow around the great circle within the ancient city of Rome, with its many Caesars and wonderful history, was subsequently to arise to fame. The famous Olympic Games, of which we hear so much from time to time, and which at best were but a pale reflex of those at Tailteann, were not yet instituted in the sea-girt province of Elis in ancient Greece, till more than 400 years after King Louis Lawfather, or Louis of the Long Hand, summoned all the men of Erin to celebrate the Tailteann ceremonies on the plains of Royal Meath. Dancing or music? Well, there would be music, certainly. Not so much dance. There'll be lots of music has been mentioned in various myths. So that's a very interesting topic, Veronica. I'm going to take a note of that. Thank you for your suggestion. Somebody might have suggested music before, but not music and dancing. Veronica Casey. Thank you, Veronica. That is duly noted. Could be a while before I get round to it, mind you, because I'd have to do a bit of research on it, but we'll get there. Even the kingdom of Athens itself, subsequently so famed for its learning, its art, and its culture, was not yet founded by Cecrops and his Egyptian colony. Unlike the preposterous mythological gods and goddesses to whom, for want of more inspiring ideals, the ancient Greeks instituted their games and dedicated their temples. Tailtiu was a real personage, an ordinary human being endowed with ordinary human attributes and high accomplishments. She was no impossible myth such as Minerva, Juno, Jupiter, or imaginary beings of that kind. And I think that statement probably hasn't stood the test of time. During her lifetime, this distinguished Irish queen had taken the trouble to select a particular spot in which she wished to be buried. It was located on the side of a hill covered with dense forest, but because of its sunlit and beautiful situation, she had chosen it, and her husband, in compliance with her wishes, had it cleared of the timber. It took a host of stalwart men nearly a year to accomplish the task. In this spot, Tailtiu described her Leah, or tomb, should be made. Her Guba, G-U-B-A, or public lamentations, recited, and we've heard that word before, haven't we? In the Nouth myth, Kno Guba, the nut lament. And her Nosa, N-O-S-A-D, the D would be lenited, Nosa, or funeral rites and games, duly celebrated according to the recognised customs of the country. There was nothing superhuman about such ordinary facts, for which we learn the customs of the people and how distinguished personages were honoured in Ireland 3,000 years ago. The institution of an Oenach, now he spells it here A-O-N-A-C-H, but of course in the Old Irish, in the manuscripts, it is spelt O-E-N-A-C-H, as it is sometimes misleadingly called, that is the fair, or at any particular place in early pagan times, arose from the burial there of some great or renowned personage, such as a distinguished king or queen, an illustrious warrior chieftain, or a famous man of learning. On such an occasion, a great national assembly was called together, usually by order of the king, to celebrate the funeral rites of the deceased, and at the same time to avail of the gathering to promulgate any improvements or extensions in the established laws of the nation. When summoned by the Ard Rí, or High King, such assemblies were of the greatest national importance, and as such were attended by all the minor kings, chiefs and nobles, as well as by vast multitudes of people from all parts of the 5 provinces. As a national institution, the Oenach fulfilled 3 important public functions in the lives of the people. Its first object was to do honour to the illustrious dead. Secondly, to promulgate laws. And finally, to entertain the people. And of course, that has to have been a big part of it. Sorry, I'm just going to adjust the YouTube camera because I see that I'm at the very bottom of the frame. Apologies to the YouTubers. Sorry about that. The first function, the first object, was carried out with great solemnity and impressive ceremonies, in which all present played their allotted parts as strictly prescribed by ancient custom and the law. The Gubba, or morning chants, were sung by specially invited guests. The Kepog, which was a strange and beautiful dirge, speaking of music, was sung by the druids and poets attached to the person or court of the deceased. It was initiated by the chief druid and taken up and improvised by each singer in turn, and recounted the family history, recited the personal exploits, and lamented the loss of the departed. It was no ordinary expression of regret, and its composition and intonation evinced an art requiring much study, cultivation, and practice. Few who have ever heard this weird lament, even as it is sung or chanted today, can ever forget it. After the Kepog was sung by the druids and poets assembled around the bier, that's the B-I-E-R, as in the it's like the precursor of the coffin, you know, that platform that supported the corpse, not the B-E-E-R, but we'll get to that. Some very weird religious ceremonies were gone through. Next morning, the body was transferred to an inflammable pile, and at the close of day, the torches were lighted at the great fire of the Oenach, and the pyre ignited. Then, as the column of black smoke ascended, the assembled multitude turned their faces to the setting sun and, raising their right hands aloft, saluted the departing god of day. These rites occupied from 1 to 3 days according to the rank of the deceased. And all that's very interesting, because we discussed about the idea of the Oenach or assembly sites, pertaining to Dronehenge and the henges at Brunabonia, Oenach and Broga, and how the mortuary enclosures there might have been, separate from the henges. So if you were in the henges, you were taking part in activity, but the mortuary enclosures were the places where the fires were lit and the bodies were cremated. Sorry, somebody's asking, Eridret, can you spell the name of the lament? C-E-P-O-G, I think. I'll just double check that, Aaron. Kepog, yes. I'll just type that in here. C-E-P-O-G, Kepog. I'll type it in on YouTube as well. In case anyone's interested in following up on that. Make sure I haven't missed anything else. Now, just in relation to the Kepog, there is a footnote. This custom, strange to say, although gradually dying out, still continues in some of the more remote Irish-speaking districts of the south and west, where the true tradition of the ancient Kepog may be heard at the present day. A learned writer describing it says, quote, I once heard in West Muskerry in the county of Cork, a dirge of this kind, excellent in point of both music and words, improvised over the body of a man who had been killed by a fall from a horse. It was chanted by a young man, the brother of the deceased. He first recounted his genealogy, eulogized the spotless honour of his family, described in the tones of a sweet lullaby his childhood and boyhood, and then, changing the air suddenly, he spoke of his wrestling and hurling, his skill at ploughing, his horsemanship, his prowess at a fight in a fair, his wooing and marriage, and ended by suddenly bursting into a loud, piercing, but exquisitely beautiful wail, which was again and again taken up by the bystanders. There you go. There's the Kepog. Marlon says, I'm in Sacramento too. Fáilte, Carja, Fáilte, Marlon. Good evening to you. Terralyn says it's a lovely day in Colorado. Hi, Terralyn. And it was also a beautiful day here in Glan-na-Boine, the Boyne Valley. Laura Mullen is also in Sacramento in California. Hi, Laura. Kepog, got it. Good stuff. The second function. After the conclusion of the religious ceremonies, on the fourth day, the Ardree took his place before the royal seat at sunrise. The minor kings, princes, nobles, chieftains, and all persons of title to the 26th degree, together with the queens and other noble dames, all took their prescribed places to the right and left of the monarch, whilst the assembled people stood in silence before him. Then the trumpets blared forth. The High King turned to the east, saluted the sun, and the assemblage followed suit. Now, what's interesting here is, in relation to Dronehenge and some of the other henges of the Boyne Valley, like Site Q at Doubt, remember we were saying about the two entrances, one facing setting sun, one facing rising sun. And in the case of Dronehenge, you'd be looking at the setting sun approximately at the time of Lunasa, at the beginning of the harvest, and then rising sun for Samhain for the beginning of winter, or also, of course, in bulk, the beginning of spring. When the ceremony of saluting the sun was over, the Ardree, dressed in his splendid robes, stood forth and addressed his people. Having fittingly alluded to the illustrious dead whose burial rites they had performed, he called upon his arch-druid or chief Olaf to proclaim the royal truce for the period of the Oenach and to promulgate the latest laws enacted for the realm. What does promulgate mean? It means to propagate or to distribute, doesn't it? The man of learning, Olaf, responding to the king's command, ascended a mound and read the laws which he had enshrined in beautiful poetry. This latter was repeated by the lesser Olafs, druids, and bards, distributed through the multitude, till all present were familiar with their legal rights and duties, the history of their country, the glories of their king, and the warlike deeds of the illustrious dead. Then another great fire was lighted, and the second function of the Oenach concluded. What is the correct, please? Says Aaron. The correct what? Keening. Yes. Yeah, I think it is K. Well, I'm trying to find. I don't remember what the Irish. I'm trying to remember what the Irish. I mean, I think that word is probably an anglicization of an Irish word. We'll get to it. Don't worry. The third function. Next came the Cultach Fuat. Cultach, Cuiteach, and separate word Fuait, or third great function, consisting of the funeral games in honour of the dead. And it is curious to note how this ancient custom of rejoicing after a funeral is still practiced in many countries. At military funerals in almost all parts of the world, as well as at public funerals generally, after the deceased is laid to rest, the attendant bands cease playing their dead marches and other lugubrious tunes and immediately strike up the liveliest airs in their repertoire. Whence this custom came can never be determined, since it existed before history began to be written. And to the games themselves, the Cúiseach Fuat, as these funeral games were called, consisted of athletic, gymnastic, and equestrian contests of various kinds, and included running, long jumping, high jumping, hurling, quoit throwing, spear casting, sword and shield contests, wrestling, boxing, swimming, horse racing, chariot racing, spear or pole jumping, slinging contests, bow and arrow exhibitions, and in fact, every sort of contest exhibiting physical endurance and skill. So basically, yes, like a precursor or a forerunner to the Olympic Games. In addition, there were literary, musical, oratorical, and storytelling competitions, singing and dancing competitions, and tournaments of all kinds. Also, competitions for goldsmiths, jewelers, and artificers in the precious metal. For spinners, weavers, and dyers, and the makers of shields and weapons of war. All were conducted under specially prescribed conditions, and articles of guaranteed home manufacture were examined and tested with the greatest care. The fair, not a special function. Finally, and more as a mere consequence than as a special function, the Oenach partook of the nature of a great market or fair. All kinds of food, merchandise, livestock, household utensils, cloth, arms, and articles of wearing apparel were on exhibition as well as for sale. Foreigners were not excluded from the fairs, and it is specially recorded that the Greeks, as distinguished from our less distant foreign neighbours, had special, quote, great marts, unquote, of their own allotted to them for the sale of precious gems, jewellery, gold ornaments, and many coloured silken cloaks. In fact, merchants and dealers of all kinds availed themselves of these great assemblies, and exhibiting their wares appeared to have pushed a lively trade. Such was the character of the ancient Oenachs, Aonaigh, which is the plural, many of which were held in ancient Ireland long before Rome was founded. The most important, however, were Oenach Tailteann in Meath, Oenach Carman in Wexford, and Oenach Colman on the Curragh of Kildare. And one that fails to get mentioned really anywhere in the literature about Oenachie is Oenach and Broga, which is mentioned in Laura Nahira, the 11th century book of the Dun Cow, which is the earliest of our surviving manuscripts about mythology. In the story, Ided Ná-í agus Adnacol, which is the violent death of Ná-í and his burial. And in there, Angus and Broga, Oenach and Broga is mentioned as one of the chief Oenachs. All those great gatherings, it should be remembered, were regularly organised assemblies. They were regulated strictly and in detail by legally prescribed bylaws, the transgression of which, in many instances, meant death. They took these things very seriously. A universal truce was proclaimed in the High King's name, and woe betide any man who broke it. No one could be arrested for any previous offence, nor could anyone be distrained, detained, or otherwise vexatiously interfered with, either whilst going to, attending at, or returning from the Oenach. All feuds, fights, quarrels, and such like disturbances were strictly forbidden and severely dealt with. And all known criminals were rigorously excluded from both the games and the assembly. It is interesting to note that almost identical bylaws were subsequently instituted and enforced at Olympia. Women specially protected. Under the bylaws, special protection was afforded to women of all classes. They were not, as at Olympia, in this respect only did the latter bylaws differ from the Irish, excluded from the assembly, but on the contrary, special features were provided to attract their attendance, and a curious matchmaking mart and marriage ceremony were established on the grounds. A particular enclosure with stands was provided for their exclusive use, and this was called the cot, C-O-T, or coha, C-O-T-H-A, whence comes the French word coterie. Interesting. Yes, definitely. Krista Gray Tucker says, really wish there was an Irish language group in this area. It's hard to learn when you don't have other speakers to interact with. That's very true. I did find a place online that is doing online conversation Zoom meetups, but I'm not confident enough to join one yet. I am relearning Gaeilge, Kristen, on Duolingo at the moment, and I intend to keep up with that until such time as I'm able to engage in conversational Irish. So yeah, there are lots of resources though, you know, certainly don't lose heart. And I know how you feel because I'm not able to actually converse os Gaeilge, although I did learn it when I was in school. I haven't really used much of it since I was, you know, left school. And now, of course, I have great regret about that because I'd love to be able to speak it fluently. All those great gatherings, it should be, oh, sorry, we did that. Women specially protected. Under the bylaws, special protection was afforded to women of all classes. We did already mention that as well. We were talking about coha, whence comes the French word coterie. Elopements forbidden. The romance of true love and the outmanoeuvring of unrelenting parents appear to have been rather prevalent in ancient Erin in those days, since we find elopements during the truce most rigorously banned, lest the absence of parents or guardians at the Oenach might be availed of by lovers. It was, in fact, deemed a heinous offence, and the abduction of a lady against her will brought down the wrath of the monarch himself on the head of the offender, and so it bloody well should be. Nevertheless, this offence was not uncommon in Ireland as late as 100 years ago. Some contrasts. In the foregoing respect, it should be mentioned the moral obligations in force in Ireland, at least during these celebrations, were strikingly in contrast with those in ancient Greece, when the Olympian Games were established some hundreds of years later. And as to ancient Rome, there does not appear to have been any moral obligations imposed on anyone at any time. The Ludi of ancient Rome, however, did not come into existence until some 1100 years after the institution of Tailteann, and they degenerated rapidly into a carnival of licensed debauchery. There you go. Kerem Gogus, hello, dear friends, and dear Anthony. Sorry I'm late. Fáilte Kerem Trononoa. Yeah, Duolingo is good because, like, it's like, you know, it starts from scratch and it, you know, it just takes you at a pace, you know, and that's the one I'm using anyway. So hopefully you'll get some use out of it. But obviously, being able to converse with people is the best way. I mean, if you're learning Irish to become a school teacher in Ireland, you have to go to the Gaeltacht and spend several weeks there and converse with people in Irish, you know. Yeah, I'll Photoshop the app and send it to the Mythical Ireland group as long as Anthony's cool with it. That's okay, Alex. I presume that's an Irish learning app, is it? Yeah, there's no problem. Okay, yeah, no problem at all. Stacey Kelsey says, hello from Maine. Jigut Stacey, fáilte. Okay. The origin of the Tailteann games. The story of these ancient Irish games is shortly this. Yochi Mac Eirc was a famous monarch in Ireland in the very earliest days of her history. He was, in fact, the last king of the Firvolg and occupied the throne when the invading colony of Tuatha Dé Danann landed on our shores more than 3,800 years ago. And he very specifically says that that was in 1897 BC. Yochi advanced from Tara with a host of chiefs and legions of men to expel the invaders who were encamped at Moytura near Cong in County Mayo, and the king engaged them in battle. According to St. Columkill, this battle of Moytura was the most strenuous, if indeed not the most amazing battle recorded in our whole history. It is recorded in many ancient manuscripts and is referred to by O'Curry as one of the first authentic events in our chronological history. In this battle, Yochi Mac Eirc, the husband of Tailtiu, was slain. Irish intercourse with Spain. For many years before his death, this ancient Firvolg king had been in constant communication and close business relationship with Spain, and had married Tailtiu, the daughter of Maimor, a well-known Spanish king. This royal princess, in whose honour the Tailteann Games were originally instituted, was not only a very beautiful and stately woman, but one of the most learned and accomplished ladies in the whole of Europe. She is said to have mastered every science, art, and knowledge, not only in Europe, but even in the Eastern world, and to have learned and deserved the reputation of being, quote, the most distinguished druidess in the Western world, unquote. And her story, of course, has echoes in the story of Tia, who we will be having an episode about, who is married to one of the sons of the King of Spain, and who chooses the hill of Tara, or Drumcane as it's known then, the beautiful ridge, as the place where she should be buried when she dies, and then it gets its name, Chawar Tara. Queen Tailtiu. Tailtiu came to Ireland as the queen of Yochi Mac Eirc more than 19 centuries before the Christian era, and took up her abode in the royal palace of Tara. There you go, fascinating. Here she won the universal esteem and admiration of all the men of Erin, both for her beauty and wonderful accomplishments. She instructed the Olives and Druids in many arts that redounded to the honour and glory of her adopted country. Under her benign influence, peace and harmony reigned throughout the land until the coming of the Dé Danann. Sometime previous to her husband's death, Queen Tailtiu had personally selected her own burial place. It was a beautifully situated spot on the sunlit slopes of Kyle Cohen in the midst of the great rolling forest. At her request, the encircling trees were cut down and removed, and a large area on the green hillside reserved for her lacht, L-E-A-C-H-T, or tomb. This spot appeared like a great glistening emerald, reflecting the sunshine from within its sombre setting of surrounding forest. It was truly a beautiful place, and could be seen from the doors of her favourite palace at Teltown, some 12 miles away. And of course, it is reputed by scholars that the spot where she chose to be buried is in fact Loch Crew, which is about 12 miles from Teltown. In this spot, she had decreed that her Oenach should be held, her Gubba sung, and her Nossa celebrated when she had passed away. So her tomb and the place of the games, I'm assuming, yes? Yes. Her foster son, Lou. Fosterage at that time, as in subsequent years, was customary in royal families in Ireland, and Tailtiu had taken a noble youth of tender years to be fostered at her court. His name was Lou, or Louis, Mac Ethlin, and although of the invading race who had slain her husband, she had him brought up most carefully under her own personal instruction. She paid particular care to the attention of his education and taught him every art, science, and mystery known to herself, so that when he afterwards ascended the throne, he was one of the most learned men and accomplished warriors in Erin. And lest we forget, we should also point out at this moment that Lou, in fact, had Fomorian blood in his lineage as well, being a son of Cian and Ethna. And of course, Ethna was the daughter of Balor, who was the very baleful leader, Balor the strong smiter, the leader of the Fomorians at the time of the Second Battle of Moytura. King Lugh lived at his great palace at Naas, now Naas in County Kildare, and on the death of Tailteann at her residence near Teltown in County Meath, he had her interred in her, quote, green circle on the distant hills, unquote. She was buried in royal state with impressive druidical rites on the side of Kyle Cohen, now called Sliabh Caile, which is Sliabh na Caile, Loughcrew. Her Gubba or her Goa was duly sung and her Nossa celebrated as she had wished. Just need to take a note of something there for a moment. You'll forgive me while I do so, I hope. It's like it's now or never because you forget these things afterwards, you know. Apologies to all of you watching for the delay. I do apologize. I have to mark things when I see them. It's kind of important. The foregoing facts are recorded in one of our oldest writings, from which the following excerpt is taken as an interesting specimen of ancient Irish composition. Tailteann, why so called? And I think this is undoubtedly from, this looks like it might be from the Dinshenachas. Answer, Tailtiu, daughter of Maimor, the wife of Yochigarov, son of Tuatha Dé Danann. It was by him the mound of the strangers at Tara was made. And she was the foster mother of Louis, son of Skolbolov, and it was she that requested her husband to cut down Kyle Cohen, and there should be an Oenach around her lacht tomb. And she died on the calendar of August after that, and her Goa lamentations, or her Gubba, Goa, and her Nossa funeral rites and games were celebrated by Lugh. 500 years, moreover, and 3,000 before the birth of Christ, this occurred, and this assemblage was celebrated by every king who occupied Erin till Patrick came. And 400 years it continued to be celebrated in Tailteann from Patrick to the Black Fair of Donecha, son of Fland, son of Malachy. 3 prohibitions were upon Tailteann, namely, to pass through it without alighting, to see it over the left shoulder, and to throw a cast of a spear in it which does not reach its mark. And of course, the prohibitions were the Gasa. Under the fair of Tailteann dictur, of which is said the following: You nobles of the land of Cumly Cun, listen to us for our blessing, till I relate to you the ancient history of the origin of Oenach Tailtiu. Tailtiu, daughter of renowned Maimor, wife of Yochigarov, son of Tuatha Dé Danann, was thither brought by the Firvolg host to Kyle Cohen after a co-valiant battle. Co-valiant. Kyle Cohen, tall and stately were its trees, from Esker to Roman, from Monamore of great adventures, Monamore, which would be the Great Bog, same origin as the townland name Moneymore in Drogheda, which we spoke about a number of episodes ago. I believe that was the one about High Brazil. From Isle to Ard na Shuigi, from Shuigi of the Shuya Selga, whither went the companies of Drumdarg. From the wood eastward, the chariot heads did pass into Find from Quill Clucher. Excuse me, the voice is drying out. The confluence of Currach, the head of the river, the hill of Banba, where spears are wont to be, spears, not fears. The hounds of Carpri were triumphant over the borders of Tipra Mungarge. Now, Tipra is a well, Tubber. Many the heroes of the pagans, the battles, the battalions, the great fires that were engaged in felling Kyle Cohen. Delightful was the host of the Firvolgs. When she had felled the beautiful wood, and having cleared its roots out of the ground, before the end of 1 year, it was Craig Mui. It was a flowery plain adorned with shamrocks. Megan Walters, yeah, Gasa, Geasa. Gasa is like a forbiddance or it's kind of a superstitious thing that you shouldn't do because if you did, it would bring you great bad luck, you know. Connor Puckle is Fiara Gaelge Vrishte no Berla Klishte. Loving the enthusiasm for our beautiful language in the community. Yeah, and there's a lot of people who are interested in learning even words. We don't have to be fluent Gaelgors. It's lovely. It is lovely to reignite the ancient names of the places, especially. John Main says, Grianvar Inu is San Francisco. Gomala Scale Biogon Januk. No problem at all. John is a bit late, and he says it is sunny today in San Francisco. Lovely to have you along, John. Tarini Pendleton says, greetings from Laguna Beach in California. Somebody's watching from the beach in California. That sounds lovely, Tarini. Fáilte. Good evening. On the death of Tailtiu, a great national Oenach was ordered by King Lu to solemnize her funeral rites and institute the commemoration games already described. And the Cuicheach Fuat, or funeral games, continued to be celebrated as an annual celebration on the 1st of August, Lammas Tide, for many centuries. Occasionally, and we said that about Drone Henge, that the likely date of celebration there would one would think, were certainly my own opinion, for what it's worth, about the orientation of the entrances suggested to me that it might have a Lunasa orientation, Lunasa sunset orientation. Occasionally, they were interrupted for one reason or another, but as time rolled on, they were revived again by succeeding high kings, and on each occasion with increased splendour, until at length Oenach Tailteann became one of the greatest and most firmly established institutions in the nation. Excuse me for a moment. I wanted to turn off my little heater because it got cold this evening, but it's warm now. A dress parade of kings. It would be no easy task indeed to convey any true or adequate idea at the present day of the magnitude and magnificence of this ancient celebration as it continued in its ever-increasing splendour down the centuries. Even at that time it had become famous all over Europe. Knowledge of it had extended into ancient Greece and inspired the institution of the great Olympian Games at Elis. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, Elis, in the year 1222 BC. Like to our Irish horse show, which has developed from a comparatively small and insignificant gathering into its present dimensions, attended as it is by visitors from all parts of the world as a parade of fashion, the Tailteann Games ultimately attained gigantic proportions and became a veritable full-dress parade of kings and queens and royal personages, descending in, quote, grades of honour and nobility to the 26th degree, unquote. It was attended by their long retinues of lords and ladies, chiefs and champions, ollavs, bards and poets, men of science and of learning, artificers and warriors, each bedizened in his or her particularly distinctive dress of brilliant colours as prescribed by law. It must be remembered that those were the days when personal adornment had reached its climax of superb and royal splendour, when every king and queen and prince and chief, with their attendant lieutenants and personages in waiting, presented a veritable pageant of glory in their costumes and apparel. Their headdresses were either crowns or crescents or helmets of burnished steel, silver, or gold. Their adorned hair was interwoven with golden spirals, and their plaited locks were pendant with golden balls. Their necks were encircled with collars and torques of gold, inlaid with sparkling gems and rich enamels. Their beautiful silken cloaks, in rich colours of every shade and hue, hung from their shoulders in flowing folds, and were fastened and held in position with jewelled clasps and great brooches of gold and silver and bronze of exquisite design and workmanship. Those beautiful things we now see preserved in the Royal Irish Academy or the National Museum. Those were the days when lenas, or shirts of noble men and women, were made of many-coloured oriental silks. And of course, lenia is still the Irish word for a shirt today, embroidered with threads of silver and of gold, and their sandals and leg straps were of leather, adorned with red enamel and snow-white bronze. When every king and chief and noble warrior appeared in public bearing a burnished shield, graven with wonderful designs and embossed with gold, and wearing swords with inlaid and richly jewelled hilts, when their prancing war steeds were radiantly caparisoned with gold embroidered draperies, silver collars with tiny golden bells, and jeweled bridles of red enamelled leather. Lisa O'Hare says, hello, catching up on YouTube. Must say the book is great as well. Best wishes, Lisa. Hi, Lisa. Fáilte. Yes, there's a very colourful and wonderful description of I think it was Movanwe was saying, yes, wonderful description of their outfits. Conceive then the plains of Royal Meath, crowded for miles with such a magnificent gathering, and we get some idea of the surpassing splendour of the ancient Ainley. Such were those great national assemblies in ancient Erin, long before the dawn of Christianity, and such they continue to be for more than 3,000 years, till the days of Roderick O'Connor. And folks, I'm going to be finishing on this last page, and I hope you don't mind, but I'm going to rush off because we're going to celebrate the birthday party here. But don't worry, we have lots more very interesting episodes coming this week. And of course, as I said, I'll maybe announce, just when we're finished, I'll do the announcements for early next week. The last celebration. Its last celebration by the last King of Ireland in AD 1169 was, if we are to judge it by the contemporary writers, the greatest and most impressive of all. We are told, Oenach Tailteann imoro dojening. You'll have to forgive me. This is Old Irish, and I'm probably butcher the pronunciation of some of it. Do genoin la ri erin ocus la le chuin don chor shin ocus ro lechrich a grafne ocus Mark Shlui o Mullach ag go Mullach Tailteann. And that, translated, is on this occasion, the Oenach Tailteann was celebrated by the King of Ireland, and that's Rí Éireann, and the people of Lough Cuin, the northern half of Ireland. Cuin, or I think that's from Ceann, isn't it? The head part. Letmoga and Lough Cuin were the two halves of Ireland. The northern half was Lough Cuin, and their horses and cavalry were spread out on the space extending from Mullach Id to Mullach Tailteann. As the distance here given from Mullach Ig, now Lloyd's Hill, west of Kells, that's the one, by the way, if you've ever seen it, has a lighthouse on it. It's an inland lighthouse. It's about, Kells would be 25 miles, 30 miles inland from the sea. And there's a folly, which is in the shape of a lighthouse on it. To Mullach Tailteann, now Slieve na Caille, at the Royal Cemetery of Tailteann, is a span of more than 7 miles across a beautiful plain in County Meath. And as King Roderick O'Connor was a rigorous upholder of the formalities and observances of all court and state functions, especially as to apparel and ornamental jewellery, even to the wearing of silken hose and golden garter clasps, such as are worn today by the Knights of St. Patrick, we can easily imagine then the radiant splendour and superb magnificence of the last celebration of Oenach Tailteann. Now there is more. There might be enough more. There might be enough to do a second episode of Oenach Tailteann. Maybe we'll do that tomorrow night. In the meantime, just to mention that our lineup for the celebration of Bealtaine, just in case you've thought, a lot of people have been saying celebrating the traditional law of Bealtaine, and that's okay. That's no problem whatsoever. But the reason I'm holding the Bealtaine celebrations centered on the 5th of May is because the 5th of May is the date of the cross-quarter date of Bealtaine, which is the date upon which it would have been celebrated in pre-Christian times or prehistoric times. So we have an episode. No, tomorrow. I'm wrong. Yeah, sorry, I can't do Oenach Tailteann tomorrow night because tomorrow night's episode is about Bealtaine, and that will lead us into the next morning on the 5th, because the morning of the 5th is the precise moment of Bealtaine this year. On the evening of the 5th, that's Tuesday evening, I'll be doing an episode about Oenach. Immediately after that episode finishes at 21 minutes past 21, so 9:21 p.m. Irish time, David Clark, who is the landowner and the custodian of the great monuments of Oenach, and his family are going to light the Bealtaine fire on the hill of Oenach. At the same time, I'm going to light our fire here, and I'm going to live stream it after we do the live myths live stream. I invite you all to do the same. Light your fire, share videos and pictures of it, please, on the Oenach page, and please on the Mythical Ireland community page. If you're not already a member of the community, I'm going to share that. It's very important, actually, because the community page you can share pictures on. You can't share pictures on this, the Mythical Ireland page. I'm going to share that as a link on YouTube and also here under the Facebook live stream. So please join the Mythical Ireland community, and afterwards or at the time, share your live streams, share your pictures of your Bealtaine fires. And then on the 6th of May, Wednesday evening, we're going to have an episode about Eru. And Eru, of course, is the goddess associated with Oenach, said to be buried there, and originally a goddess in triplicate form, a tutelary or guardian goddess of Ireland, along with Banba and Fola. So we will tell some of Eru's story on Wednesday. Also, I should remember, as if things weren't busy enough and confusing enough, so Bealtaine, we're going to talk about on tomorrow evening, Monday evening. Oenach, Tuesday evening, immediately followed by the fire video, and then Eru on the 6th of May on Wednesday. But at lunchtime on Tuesday, which is Bealtaine, that is the first day of the extending of our 2 kilometre limit to 5 kilometres here in Ireland. I'm going to do a live broadcast in the middle of the day from Douth, just because I haven't seen it in 6 weeks. So just to say hello from there. It won't be anything in particular. If I can think of anything appropriate to read or say when I'm there, I will do. So hopefully you'll join us. There's a few very special days of activities coming up. Also, I urge you to like and follow the Oenach page. Just hang on now. If I can find the link to that, I'll give you the link to it as well, just in case you're not already. Yeah, so it's facebook.com/Hill of Oenach. I'll paste that in here as well. So like and follow the Oenach page as well. They will be live streaming their fire, and perhaps I will do mine immediately after because I don't want to interfere with their celebration, to be honest. It'd be nice to light the fire at the same time, but then the tradition, of course, is that the sacred fire gets lit first and then the outer fires. So we will let David Clark and his wonderful family light the fire at Oenach first, and then we'll do a little bit of a live stream from here in Drogheda. And I invite you all to light your own little fires. If you cannot or do not have the space to light a little fire, if you don't have a barrel or a chimenea or a little grate or something into which you can light a fire, then I invite you just to simply light a candle in your home. Let us all spark the flame of Bealtaine, and we will pray for, in our own way, and call for the purification, which was a part of the ancient Bealtaine rites, the driving of cattle between the between the two fires, to purify them and protect them from plague. And let us hope that we can also drive ourselves metaphorically between the fires of Bealtaine and purify ourselves and free ourselves from this awful plague. In the meantime, thanks a million everyone for watching. If you have any questions, I'm going to celebrate the birthday now. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me by private message or by email. My email address is on the website, mythicalireland.com. Just bear in mind that I am a little bit inundated with questions and people inquiring about all sorts of things. And I also need to spend time with my family. And I also work full-time still, which I'm very lucky to be able to claim. So your patience and your forbearance in that regard would be much appreciated. In the meantime, stay safe, everybody. Keep washing your hands. Keep social distancing. Do what you have to do to help us defeat this very nasty virus. And I know that a great number of people, despite inept political leadership in some cases, a great many places have done a fantastic job of keeping the numbers down and flattening the curve. So keep at it and keep doing what you have to do. In the meantime, keep coming back here to Live Irish Myths, to MythFlix, where every evening, as long as we're able, we'll immerse ourselves into ancient Irish myth and lore and try to extrapolate some knowledge and wisdom from it, and some happiness and perhaps assuagance of our anxiety in these times. Ichawa, Kulasov, Movanach Orav, and see you all tomorrow evening. All the best. Bye-bye. And YouTubers, that extra few seconds, falls you. No, slaunch you even.